Now, of all the upcoming Star Wars content, the one piece of it that I've maybe talked about the least, despite how soon we'll be getting it, that being this coming December, is maybe the Book of Boba Fett. And the main reason for that is, well, I'm not even entirely sure what to expect out of the series. I mean, part of me thinks this is going to be similar to what I thought The Mandalorian was going to be, that it's going to follow a bounty hunter who's more along the lines of an anti-hero, doing his own thing for his own reasons. But Din Djarin didn't really end up being that. And the whole story ended up being a lot more feel-good than I ever thought it'd be, which is not a complaint. I loved the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. It just wasn't what I expected. And along those same lines, I don't know that I've ever really thought of Boba Fett as an anti-hero, or even a possible anti-hero, that he'd ever really fit that mold. Yes, there's a code he follows and he has honor, which is why he comes off as something like a reluctant protagonist in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, but I really don't know if most Boba Fett fans want to see him stay on that path, and considering the post-credit scene at the end of Season 2 where he claims Jabba's old throne from Bib Fortuna, well, I don't think we have to worry about him making the turn to good guy anytime soon. Another reason why I haven't done much speculation is that very few official details have emerged, though plenty of rumors are out there as always, and we've also yet to get a trailer or even a peek at any footage, though I'd imagine that could change very soon. I'd imagine a trailer could drop anytime from now to maybe late October, again keeping in mind that the series is going to begin in December, and they'll want to get the hype train going for it. And speaking of getting hyped, Robert Rodriguez, that's the show's director and executive producer, certainly has plenty of confidence in his own creation and is trying to get people excited for it by recently saying in an interview that, "Wait until you see what's coming. It's going to blow your mind. That's all I can say. I can talk it up all I want because I know it over-delivers. It way over-delivers. People are going to be so pumped when they see it." And those are, again, some pretty confident words. So let's discuss what exactly would blow our minds as fans. Let's discuss just what this series might be about, outside of knowing it's about Boba Fett, of course, that it's the Book of Boba Fett. Which in itself is perhaps an interesting name worth pondering, because it could just be that, keeping with The Mandalorian, which called its episodes chapters, the name of the show is just sort of playing off that same theme or idea, that these are all books that are part of some larger overarching story, and it has even been reported that those working on the show refer to it as The Mandalorian Season 2.5. However, this name could also mean that it's really going to focus on the larger story of Boba Fett, that this is his book, his larger tale, if you will, that it could show us flashbacks to other times in his life. We even had Tamora Morrison, who of course plays Boba Fett. He said that the series is going to show us his past, and we'll see where he's been since The Empire Strikes Back. Which, yeah, sounds like it could be pretty awesome, though some wonder if he maybe misspoke when he said that, and think he may mean where he's been since Return of the Jedi, when he of course fell into the Sarlacc pit, not to be seen again in the new canon at least, until Season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is 5 years after, which then left us with plenty of questions, not the least of which is, what did he do for those 5 years, especially without his armor? Why did he wait so long to come back for it? And why did he wait so long to dethrone Bib Fortuna and essentially take over the criminal underworld, or so it seems? Another reason some think he may have misspoke and meant since Return of the Jedi is we're right now seeing in the new canon comic books exactly what Boba Fett was up to after The Empire Strikes Back. There is a large crossover series in progress right now that involves basically all the Marvel Star Wars titles, and it's called War of the Bounty Hunters, where what happens to Han frozen in carbonite, what happens to his body in there, has been a primary storyline, and we've seen Boba Fett sort of lose Han in carbonite. So it then seems a little odd that this series would dive into the exact same time period as these comics, though yes, the shows and movies haven't exactly been all too keen on holding true to what's been seen or established in the books and comics, with the appearance of a young Kanan Jarrus in the Bad Batch and what happened to him during Order 66 being an example of this. There's a comic series that greatly differs from what we saw in the series. However, and not that it makes retconning it better somehow, but the Kanan comic was created long before the Bad Batch was probably even an idea for a series, whereas the Book of Boba Fett and this War of the Bounty Hunters comic series would have been created during roughly the same time, which means there could possibly even be a connection between the two, So maybe he didn't misspeak at all, and the Book of Boba Fett will pick up some sort of thread laid down by these comics. I mean, I just have a hard time believing, or maybe I don't want to believe because I have been enjoying the War of Bounty Hunters, which is still ongoing, that they would immediately retcon what has been, so far, the largest event in the new canon Star Wars comics, especially again with them being produced or created at roughly the same time, meaning there's no reason they couldn't at least check in with each other to make sure things line up. That is what the story group is supposed to do, after all. And if that isn't the case, if the Book of Boba Fett is instead going to utterly ignore or overwrite this comic series, well then, for the canon junkies out there, like me, who like to keep up with everything, there will be pretty much no reason left to read the comics anymore, not if they're going to be blatantly ignored, other than reading them for their own enjoyment factor, that is, which has been very hit and miss, unfortunately. But anyway, speaking of the Bad Batch and connections between things, I do wonder what, if any, connections we'll see between the Bad Batch and the Book of Boba Fett. We've already seen Fennec Shand in the animated series, and we know she'll be in the Book of Boba Fett, so there's of course at least that much. We also saw Fennec Shand tangling with Cad Bane in The Bad Batch, which means he doesn't then die during the Clone Wars at the hands of Boba Fett, which was something we saw in one of the unfinished episodes, which could then mean Cad Bane is still alive during this post-Return of the Jedi time period, and may still be a rival of Fennec Shand and Boba Fett, which then means we could certainly see him in live action, and there are rumors out there that this is indeed going to be the case. There are also rumors of other famous or infamous bounty hunters showing up, like Bosk, for example, and I'd be pretty surprised if that doesn't happen, if we don't see most, if not pretty much all of them, speaking of the ones, of course, we see in The Empire Strikes Back. This is probably one of the reasons why Robert Rodriguez says it's going to over-deliver, because we're going to get a lot of amazing appearances from the classic bounty hunter crew, and maybe from other characters as well. Someone else we could then maybe, just maybe, see is an older Omega, who of course comes from the Bad Batch as well. She is, after all, in a way, Boba Fett's sister, and the only other pure clone of Jango Fett. This would then give us a sort of sneak peek at what type of fate awaits Omega after being raised by the Bad Batch. And personally, I think it'd be interesting to see her grow up into something, shall we say, unexpected, or that she doesn't become the person I think most of us expect her to become, which then maybe makes her a bit more interesting to watch in the future of the Bad Batch. And speaking of Jango, there's nothing to say we won't see him in this series as well, to get some of his history brought back into the new canon. They could either de-age Tamora Morrison, or brush off that old armor for episode 2 and put pretty much whoever in it with a helmet on and have Morrison do the voice. Either way, it could and would work just fine, and it'd be great to get some of his backstory as well. And so now then we come to maybe the hardest question of all, which is, what exactly is the plot of this series going to be? Well, keeping in mind we know it's going to be part of the lead up to the larger event series we were promised, along with The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka series and Rangers of the New Republic, if that's still happening. Well, we can pretty much guess whatever personal story we see about Boba Fett will relate to something much larger, obviously. And my guess would be that the New Republic is coming after the criminal underworld, which is probably still in a bit of shambles after the death of Jabba the Hutt, or we'll see that many different syndicates are all vying for power to fill the void, if you will. This is also probably where Rangers of the New Republic will or would have fit into the picture. We probably would have seen Cara Dune and others doing what they can to try and tame the Outer Rim. That is, until Disney parted ways with Gina Carano. Though again, we still may see eventually the show come to life with someone else in the lead. It could even be that the Book of Boba Fett will give us a sort of rival, a good guy rival, mind you, not a criminal rival, though I'm sure he'll have plenty of those too. Anyway, we may see the show give us some sort of rival out there trying to bring him and his newly forming criminal empire he's trying to build down. And this new character will then go on to lead or star in Rangers of the New Republic. And all of this trying to clean up the Outer Rim could even loosely tie into the High Republic, which is set 200 years before the prequels, and sees the Republic basically trying to colonize the Outer Rim and fail. In other words, the Republic wants to fix the mistakes of the past, which is certainly a theme I could see them going for. Mainly, though, I think the series will show us plenty of fighting between all the different criminal elements. I think that, and of course Boba Fett himself, is where all the focus will be. I expect to see Crimson Dawn, first seen in Solo, to certainly be a part of this as well. And who knows, we could even see Qu'ra from Solo be a part of this too, and her character already made a return in the aforementioned War of the Bounty Hunters comics, and has a comic miniseries of her own coming, and that will be released around the same time as the Book of Boba Fett is coming out, which feels like a heck of a coincidence. Other than that, again, I think it's hard to predict exactly what they're going to do with this show. They could take it many different places, considering Boba Fett is not your standard hero, and he's really not a hero at all. And though I am super excited for it, I just hope it doesn't rely too heavily on cameos to sell it. Not that I don't think there should be any, or that I won't get excited to see some of these classic characters, but I do want it to be more than, look who we brought in for this episode. I do want there to be a story of substance with Boba Fett himself. And I'd certainly love to dig more into his past, and to even go so far back as to Jango and maybe getting some history with him and the Mandalorians that will be relevant to what's going on in the present with them, or the present of this show, and then could relate to, again, this event series, which will almost certainly include the Mandalorians and what's going on with Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, and the Darksaber. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what your hopes and fears are for the Book of Boba Fett, or to speculate about what you think it might be about, and who could we see possibly showing up in the series. Either way, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.